On Locked On Rockies, love is in the air. It's Valentine's Day. What is there to love about the Colorado Rockies? And much like your relationship, perhaps, as I make a total guess, your fandom, your relationship with the Rockies, well, it might be complicated. We talk about that and a whole lot more today on Locked On Rockies.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 14th day of February in the year 2023. I am your host and Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, you're in luck, because guess what? That's what we do around here, is talk about the Colorado Rockies each and every single day. And folks, the Locked On Rockies podcast, I know it kind of is a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek. I already missed yesterday, but we are back to full steam, folks. 5 episodes a week for this week, but 5 episodes a week throughout the baseball season, throughout the summer, throughout the offseason, until we take our little off-season break. But that's not even going to be for like 10 months or something from now. But that means every weekday you can find us talking about the Rockies right here on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. That means we'll be going live with you, talking Rockies baseball, still figuring out the plan of what we want to do in terms of the season. I think I'm leaning towards post-game podcasts and switching the recording schedule to that. But just with games ending so late, with things like that, I kind of like doing them. I like my afternoon show. But that's just me. I don't think it's necessarily the best for the numbers and for growing things all the time. But it also works for me, and it also gives me time to, I think, put together a show. And it's something that a lot of you Rockies fans have been getting used to. So stay tuned to Locked On Rockies Twitter. That's where I usually ask a lot of stuff. But you can always jump in here and give me questions today. And I know that was kind of a long spiel, but today on the Locked On Rockies podcast, we are talking about loving the Rockies. It's Valentine's Day. I wanted to stick with the love theme. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of negativity that goes along with being it really is, being a Rockies fan is like being in a complicated relationship, right? It's like being in a relationship where there is it does bring a positive value to your life. But it's also something that maybe it neglects your true needs. It neglects what you're looking for. Obviously, this is a metaphor, but it is interesting, right? Because just look at some of the reaction and reception to the Rockies offseason. And a lot of people are, and we talked about this, the criticism is there because it's valid, because the Rockies have earned themselves this reputation. But there's also things to kind of consider with that, and people that don't get it. They don't know the team, right? Doesn't that sound like exactly how you would talk about someone that you have a complicated relationship with? Listen, I know that these moves, and they did this thing last year and they wanted to do this thing, but they're changing. They're making these moves. But then you're reminded about who the Rockies really are when Dick Monfort comes out and puts his foot in his mouth in back-to-back weeks. When you look at the true state of the team, when you look at the team's history and you actually break things down. So what is there to love about the Colorado Rockies? There's a lot of people that are pretty shocked to hear that there's Rockies fans. What is there to love about the Rockies is that it's our team. It doesn't matter necessarily if they're good or bad. People just have to realize that when it comes to sporting fans, there are legit Rockies fans. And then when you tell people that you're a legit Rockies fan, you kind of get a sympathy blanket thrown on you. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me give you a hug here because you're a Rockies fan. And it's not necessarily that, again, it's not warranted, but it's also just like, is that all you think? I mean, is that all you know about the Rockies? It just raises the question of how much do people really know and really follow about the Rockies as well. Because I'm not looking for necessarily sympathy from people outside of things, because these are good baseball minds. They know Rockies stuff. These people know baseball. And to just see the Rockies get dunked on and dunked on and dunked on is very frustrating, especially because it's the team's fault for doing it to themselves, but it's also something that you truly do love and care deeply about. There are folks like at Rock's Hot Takes, Deluxe Gangsta here that care deeply about the Rockies. There are people that are here on this podcast that tune into this podcast every day because they want to listen to the Rockies. Eric Harper just pops in. So what is there to love about the Rockies? It's the Rockies. They are the team that we love because of the players, because of our association of where we are, because our parents took them there, because you were sick of being in Minnesota and wanted to reach out to a team not in Minnesota, like our friend Eric. There are multiple reasons, but it's kind of hard to always defend your love of the Rockies, right? Without it depends. You can't necessarily be, I think, a diehard Rockies fan without kind of a little seed of doubt in the back of your mind. And that's why I think this Valentine's Day complicated metaphor works really well. You want to fully believe in the Rockies, right? Because why do I always think you're from Minnesota? You're a Timberwolves fan. That's why, right? You're a Timberwolves fan, and you also like the Rockies. But anyway, it's a complicated relationship, because there's things. I mean, man, there are few places in the world that are a better place to watch a baseball game in the middle of July than Denver, Colorado. Doesn't matter how good the Rockies are. There are so many people that have a fond memory of enjoying time being at the ballpark and being a part of the Rockies. The Rockies have brought a significant amount of joy to my life. The Rockies have also brought an unwavering amount of disappointment, frustration, and anger. And it kind of reminds me of like growing up and going through some of the relationships and things that I went through. But when I look back on it, it's important to kind of go through these stretches. It's important as a fan. There's a lot of fandoms that are spoiled out there because of the markets, because of their access, because of the history of their team kind of allows things. But when you're a team like the Rockies, building love, building passion, building a fan base, I'm talking fans that are Rockies fans. I'm not talking about just quote unquote Rockies fans. I'm talking about people that'll tell you the lineup, that'll have takes on the pitchers, that'll know who these prospects are. These people that actually follow the Rockies. Building that love is tough, but there are reasons to love the Rockies, and I'm going to talk about those here in just a moment in segment number 2. But before we do that, got to tell you about our friends at Built Bar. And I know if you're talking about love, you're going to love this delicious treat, Built Bar, because they don't have the fat, they don't have the calories. They are a perfect treat for you as you continue to go through and work on things. Spring is right around the corner. The year is still in full swing. You want to stay on your good habits that you've been building, and Built's going to help you do it because it's going to give you a tasty treat covered in 100% real chocolate. Yeah, that's right, real chocolate. But here's some of the macros. Only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein, coming in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. You don't even have to just order them from Built.com anymore. You can go and get things going at Sam's Club and at Walmart. The 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs could be yours at your favorite Sam's Club or Walmart. Why not check it out or see all the other great options available at Built.com? Don't miss out on the delicious, unbelievable flavors that they have for you at Built Bar and at Built.com. You can thank me later after you visit built.com. Locked On Yankees is in the chat. If you missed our crossover from last week, we talked about the new hitting coach, new hitting philosophy, and all sorts of good stuff for the Rockies. And speaking of Yankees news, the Rockies, Kyle Freeland, who I thought I was talking all this stuff about Freeland's in the World Baseball Classic, he ends up not making the roster. And then Nestor Cortez, unfortunately, has a little setback. We're hoping for the best for him, but that now allows Kyle Freeland to join that World Baseball Classic Team USA roster, and that is big news for the Colorado Rockies. And we're talking about love and things to love about the Rockies, and I see these questions here in the live chat, especially Eric Harper, because in segment number 3, we will discuss the new Rockies news of the day as well, which is the Randall Grichuk injury. What does that mean for the Rockies? Who does that open the door for? How does this impact the Rockies? We are going to talk about that here coming up in segment number 3. But I wanted to kind of focus on our things about love. And Michael Disney here in the live chat is kind of nailing what we were talking about in that the first segment there. Rockies are the girl in high school who hurts you every year, but you keep running back to her. And that's what we do. Because there's a year like this year where everybody is down on the Rockies. But if you know the Rockies, just like if you know that that pain in the butt girl or boy or whoever that you always go back to, there's a lot to love about the Rockies this year. And I'm one of very few people saying this. I think the Rockies are not going to be a good or great baseball team, but there are things to like and be excited and honestly things to fall in love with the Rockies. The Rockies potentially could be going into their third shortstop that they just throw in there, who's going to be a generational talent. I mean, I know Trevor Story's recent history and injury history has gotten in the way, but you cannot deny the impact that Trevor Story had on the team after he just walked in and did something exactly like the situation that Ezequiel Tovar is facing. If Ezequiel Tovar is good, I'm just saying good, if he contributes to the team, he is going to be the next Rocky to fall in love with. He's going to flash the leather at shortstop. He's going to bring offense. He's going to bring speed. He's going to bring talent. The Rockies could be sitting in a position to have another all-star shortstop right in their system. That's impressive. The Rockies are a team that have been able to develop and turn around some really good shortstops in the past, especially in this recent run. Yes, the Rockies, of course, might not have had the same success, but to go from Troy Tulowitzki to Trevor Story into Ezequiel Tovar, this could potentially be a really special thing to just continue to demonstrate that the Rockies have been a team that's been undervalued on defense for a pretty big a while. The Rockies could always be better on defense, and it's kind of a weird mix where they have elite defenders in certain positions and really bad defenders in other positions. But players like Ezequiel Tovar and the other prospects that we've talked about, Michael Toglia, Sean Bouchard, and Eleris Montero, they are another reason to love the Rockies because those are your next Rockies. The Rockies are transitioning, and they've been slowly doing it and stumbling and fumbling and falling down and handling it poorly along the way. But the Rockies have been in a transition. That's the word that they should be using. They don't want to use rebuild. They don't want to use tank. They don't want to use any of this other stuff. You should at least use the word transition because the Rockies are going to look different and they're going to continue to look different here as the years go forward. You are going to see different faces on this team. You're going to see the utility players of the Colorado Rockies are different this year. You are not going to see a few names that you are associated with, have associated with the Rockies for a while. Your Hampsons, your Hilliards, and then you even go into recently, your Connor Joes, for example, as well. You have a whole new wave, a whole new generation, a whole new era of Rockies baseball players to learn about, to figure out, and potentially find your next favorite player. And they are going to be making impacts. They are going to be doing things that's exciting to me. As hard as it might be to watch the Rockies lose these games and go through off seasons that aren't exciting, a team like the Rockies, and with this potential crop of prospects coming up to make impacts on the Rockies on every day, basically, like we saw at the end, is that's your next favorite player right there. Luis Montero could break out and he could be the new face of the Rockies. People are already making Ezequiel Tovar the next face of the Rockies. And this is all while getting to celebrate Charlie Blackmon, who continues to be someone who hopefully will lead and mentor these Rockies players and gets to have opportunities to contribute to the team as a DH. Plus, the Rockies are still waiting to meet their superstar. I mean, Chris Bryant could be a huge reason to love the Rockies this year. If Chris Bryant bounces back, say wins comeback player of the year, sure, maybe the Rockies aren't going to do anything, but if he helps makes the Rockies more exciting, a more watchable, more entertaining product this year that helps these Rockies youngsters and helps this team develop a chemistry, as he is going to be in my eyes, the Rockies imagining him to be the vet that like Charlie Blackmon has been for so long for the Rockies. Chris Bryant is the Charlie Blackmon to that whole other crew of youngsters that came up before. I know Charlie Blackmon and the difference isn't as much, but that's kind of the same mindset. They did it with Todd Helton back in the day as well. So there's a whole thing to look there and what's to love for the Rockies. Yes, the moves aren't flashy. Yes, the roster isn't going to be great. But if the roster is showing you and doing things that are at least things to be encouraged by, that makes you feel better, and that makes you feel more confident in the team, and you might like them a little bit more this year. I think the Rockies will at least be a more watchable product this year. I think last year's Rockies team was awful. Honestly, I think in a lot of ways, similar to watching the 2021 team on the road. That team, of course, was weird because at home they were a superpower and on the road they were a completely different team. But the Rockies are doing what's to love about the Rockies this year. There's a lot of new stuff. There's a lot of possibility. Will those possibilities pan out? I don't know. Odds are no. I mean, let's be real. It's baseball. It's a lot of things have to go well, but the possibility that the Rockies are a better team, a more lovable team, and a team that is enjoyable this year, yeah, that's certainly possible. It's not all doom and gloom for the Rockies. As much as, and again, we're critics over here. I would say we're pretty vocal critics around here. But you just see a lot of stuff about the Rockies, and you know, there are people that ask legitimately the question, what is there to love about the Rockies? Well, I mean, there's two really great defenders, and potentially that I think one of the best second basemen in baseball in the Rockies infielder, mixed with an exciting shortstop prospect, a third baseman that still can, I think, have it really could develop. If Ryan McMahon could turn into the next it could turn into DJ LeMahieu a little bit more. The potential is CJ Cron to hit 30 home runs again. Charlie Blackmon and what does this mean? I mean, he says he's going to play. Who knows? There's all sorts of stuff. On top of Jonathan Daza could be one of the most exciting players in baseball. I like legit. Like the people could fall in love with the idea that Jonathan Daza could be a near 300 hitting center fielder for the Rockies. That's helping this team. I don't know. We'll see. We will see what happens with the Rockies, but there are things to love about the Rockies, and I hope we covered a couple of them for you. Let's talk about the big Rockies news of the day. Randall Grichuk going out for the first 6 weeks of the year with some hernia surgery. We'll also talk about the live chat and what's going on there as well. But before we do that, got to tell you about our friends at FanDuel. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers can get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first deposit or if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's free, it's secure, and you can place your no-sweat first bet there on maybe your Denver Nuggets. Let's take a look about the Denver Nuggets. Are they playing tonight? They might not be. I can't remember. Let's see here. Anyway, you can bet on your beloved Denver Nuggets. As I'm scrolling through, I'm not seeing anything right now. I think the Nuggets are off tonight, but you can get in on all the action. Over-unders, money line, totals, spreads, whatever you want as you follow the Nuggets, which should be a very exciting season for the Denver Nuggets. You can see it all at FanDuel.com and on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. You know, love parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Paul Holden here, Locked On Rockies. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Why don't you make Locked On MLB Prospects your second listen of the day? Stay up to date with all things prospects, farm systems there across Major League Baseball and more here with the Locked On MLB Prospects. And again, thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. Eric Harper asks, who takes Randall's spot in right field, Bouchard, Jones, or Blackmon? Great question. And it really... Charlie Blackmon's probably going to play more defense than we thought at the beginning of the year. Now, Randall Grichuk was the big thing standing in the way. You weren't going to play Charlie Blackmon over them. However, it really depends on the Rockies' philosophy with Chuck. In my eyes, Randall Grichuk going out gives you the perfect opportunity to play Charlie Blackmon as your DH primarily and use right field as your place to get your prospects in the game. The Rockies are going to cycle through. They're going to do certain things. They just signed that utility man, Brent Bowden, I think was there. So right field should be used to kind of figure things out for some of these utility players. Let them get some playing time. Open up, and it depends on how Tolia is going to have in the spring and what you're going to do with him there. I really think Charlie Blackmon playing right field should be on the lower of the priorities for filling for Randall Grichuk. I think you have enough other things that you need to see at right field or mixtures that you need to have with the Rockies, putting some people in right, moving people around, giving other people off days. Is Charlie Blackmon going to play right field? Yes, absolutely. Is there the chance that he's the opening day starter in right field? Yeah, honestly, yeah, absolutely. I really, that's the Rockies. If they're not going to go with and use right field as this opening and use it as this, hey, we have 6 weeks to kind of get some more time to get some people in there. You'll see a lot of Charlie Blackmon. I think the easy fill in will be Chuck, but you got Jones, you got Bouchard, you got Tolia, you got all sorts of people. I mean, and again, you can move some people around. You got, other pieces that you, what we just mentioned, Bowden as well. There's multiple pieces that you can use to keep right field filled and keep with the idea of getting your prospects time. As much as I think Randall Grichuk was always the plan at right field, and that does change things. We'll see what happens when he comes back, because Grichuk was going to be at a point where if he wasn't hitting the ball to leave the yard, how much do you want him getting in the way too? Blackmon and Grichuk, though, are everyday MLB ready right fielders that can fill that spot. I think the move should be Sean Bouchard. At least after what we saw from him, if he has a strong spring, I don't think that there's any reason that Charlie Blackmon earns right field just because of being Charlie Blackmon and they have an injury to fill. I think that you need to continue to ride. If you have a hot hand in Bouchard, if he's continuing to perform in the spring, you got to play him, and you got to use right field as an opportunity to get Tolia in the game if he's up at the major league level at the start of the season. Use it so you can get Montero in the game by having Tolia play elsewhere, in right field, and allowing Montero to play third or first. that's some stuff you need to do with right field. Just sticking Charlie Blackmon back in right field to address the Randall Grichuk injury, I don't think is the right way to handle this team. I really don't. I just don't think. I don't think that your team is getting better. I don't think that you're learning more. I don't think you're helping your players develop if Charlie Blackmon is your right fielder when you could have him DH and get more of your prospects in the game and get them on the field as well to see what they're doing on defense. So it's kind of my thoughts. It's kind of where I'm at. And Rat King says Bouchard looked so nice in 22. That's the thing. There was enough to be excited about by some of these guys. We've seen good debuts. We've seen good cups of coffee trips at the major league level before from Rockies players, and we've seen how they've panned out. But this is what we got to do. This is the type of the stuff that we got to do and be willing to kind of be following and going for. If you're the Rockies, is willing to kind of stick with that plan and stick with what you got and be confident in that. Because I just don't think you can just lean back on it. Like I said, this is a new Rockies team. You have way too many new faces. You have way too many new possibilities to get in there and handle this problem than just by going back and leaning on just throwing Charlie back out there into right field. But folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you all so much for joining us and for hanging out here live in the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Just like so many of you were, the show gets bigger and bigger. It seems like as we're getting closer to this season. So live chat's going to be a ton of fun throughout the season. And a reminder, we are back to full steam ahead. We are got your episodes going all week long here. Patrick Lyons in the live chat as well. Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate it. Patrick, one of the best in the biz, talking Rockies all the time over there on with all the great folks at DMVR. Thank you, Patrick. And folks, you can find us free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. All you got to do is search Locked On Rockies, and you'll be taken to where you need to go. And you can find us also on YouTube. Like we said, right here. What we do is talk about the Rockies each and every day, and you can be part of it here in the live chat. Your subscription on YouTube is a big help to the show. Now that you made Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day, why don't you go check out the Locked On MLB Prospects show or Locked On Broncos, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Avalanche. Until next time, folks, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.